Hey everybody, it's Kevin, and I wanted to take a brief moment to talk about something that has been heavy on my heart the last several days, and that has consumed some of my time. If it seems like the page has been a little less active maybe than it usually is, this is why. And I want to preface this by saying that this is a tough, emotional topic. This is not about choosing sides or politics or making a statement or any of those things. And that's in the periphery, but this has nothing to do with any of that. It's not relevant. It doesn't need to be. And I think you'll see why when I get to it. And you know that I do a pretty good job, I think, on this page of I don't do any of that, right? Because my focus is this community. Well, as we all probably know by now, I would imagine pretty much everybody's been clued in at this point. There is a war raging across the world. In Israel and in the Gaza Strip between a state and a militant organization over there. And I'm sure you're thinking, okay, how are you going to, number one, what is this, how is this weather related? Two, how does this relate to our community? And it's not really weather related, but I'm taking a moment of personal privilege on this platform that I've built to talk about this personal issue. And it relates to our community because there are people from the United States that are involved in this thing, that are victims. And that are over there trying to make their way back. Obviously, in the fog of war, things get confusing, things get messy. It's inevitable, right? It's just a part of it. It's always been that way. And one of those is in our community. One that I know of. There may be more, right? But here in Waxahachie, in Ellis County. If you've been to Milano's Pizza here in Waxahachie, over by Getson Inner Park, where the old Subway used to be, you, especially early on, right, you probably met Haifa and Hesham. I think he goes by Sean, kind of, commonly. So, but you've probably met them. And I know that they've made a lot of friends. They're very active in the community, right? Their daughter goes to school here. You know, they contribute to Waxahachie. Bar none, absolutely. And they're citizens. They love this country. And a short time ago, before all of this went crazy, Hesham went to the Gaza Strip to visit family, something that immigrants to this country do all the time. In fact, there are folks from this page who are Americans who now are visiting other places, and they watch. I think it's Japan. There's a couple in Japan that their kids live back in the United States. I believe they're native to here, and they watch. So I can actually see on the analytics, right, that they're watching from Japan. So this is no abnormal thing to visit another country. Unfortunately, there are times, right, when the circumstances happen that we don't expect. So Hesham was over there when all of this unfolded, and nobody can expect it. I mean, they're talking about the fact that this was very unexpected, that nobody really saw this coming, right? I mean, obviously there were some that did, but by and large, this caught a lot of people off guard and by surprise. And so, again, through the fog of war, now he's an American citizen, but the circumstances as they stand now, it's not like he can hop a plane and come home. And I want to tell you just briefly about my relationship with Hesham and with his family. Not long after they opened, I think, we like to always try new places in town, right? So Terry and I and our, at that time, young son Charlie, he's still young, but, little, went to Milano's Pizza to check it out. Heard good things, wanted to check it out. And their daughter was the same age he was. I mean, literally, they're like less than a month apart. And they were up there all the time. I mean, they're small business owners, right? Trust me, if you're a small business owner, you get it, you're there all the time. So they had a box of toys, for her to play with behind the counter and that kind of thing. And because Charlie was her age, they hit it off. And they allowed Charlie to go behind the counter and play with their little daughter. And they looked after him and played with him and loved on him. It's not common that you can find people with that much love and compassion, right, for your own kids. And I think that the greatest love you can show a parent is to love their children, is to love and protect and care for their children. I think as a parent, I have learned that I have the utmost respect for someone who cares for and loves all my children. There's nothing, and as a father and as a husband, right, taking care of my family, that pretty quickly, right, gains you my respect. And Hesham is always, he's happy, he's joking around, right? He's a handshake, he's a pat on the back, he's a smile. I remember one day, fairly recently, this must have been right before he left for Gaza. Saw him in the school pickup line, and he was waving at all the kids and smiling, and making them laugh, and that's just the guy that he is. And to think that now he's in the middle of a war zone and can't go anywhere, right? And a total blockade has been put in place where there's no food, no water, no electricity, nothing. It's a complete blackout and a completely devoid of resources and communication. And to think that someone of such a bright light is stuck in darkness. I knew that he was there before all of this unfolded, right? And as soon as it did, I've had a knot in my stomach ever since. I consider Hesham to be one of my closest friends. So that's reason number one, that I want him home. I love the guy, I love his family, and I want my friend home. The other thing is that when people come to this country, when people immigrate to this country, there's a process for them to go through to become citizens. And it's not exactly an easy task. You can take the citizenship test, and there are some of those things that I don't really know off the top of my head. I mean, I've taken the citizenship test before, and there were a couple of those things where I'm like, I gotta actually check this on my phone, and immigrants that come to this country and they take the test and everything, they become American citizens. The deal is that if they become American citizens, they gain the full benefit and full protection of our government. And the fact that you're a United States citizen, to me, holds weight, right? I mean, there's all the rhetoric about America being the greatest nation in the world and these kind of things. And whether or not you agree with that doesn't matter. It's just the fact that I believe that as Americans, we must always help each other. Whether we were born here or we went through the process, did the work to become citizens, we are all guaranteed that equal protection. And it's in the Constitution. I mean, it's right there in our laws. That's just how it works, right? So to me, our government has a duty, and we as fellow citizens have a duty to fulfill that commitment. And I mean, that goes for American citizens who are stuck in Gaza. That goes for American citizens stuck in Israel. That goes for anyone stuck anywhere. If you're anywhere in the world and something goes awry, something gets crazy, it is our job to get you back and keep you safe. And again, I'm not saying this to start a debate. I don't tolerate that on this page because the work that I do is far too important to be muddied up by politics. It just is. Tornadoes don't care how you vote, nothing. Don't give a darn. They don't discriminate, neither do I. So I'm not here to tolerate that. I just want my friend home. I want Haifa's husband home. I want his daughter's daddy home. And again, I understand that in the circumstances and with the unique circumstances that surround this particular conflict, it's hard to do that. I mean, and it's been really confusion from the start, because Israel closed off the crossings. The two crossings from Gaza into Israel were closed immediately, and then there was a crossing into Egypt. And initially, the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem told any U.S. citizens to go through Rafah into Egypt. Well, for one, it was very dangerous to make the drive, the hour or so drive into Rafah from Gaza City, right? So that held a lot of people back. There were a few news stories that covered that. And then, excuse me, there was the fact that Israel, I believe, has bombed Rafah twice. So it's to the point now where there's just not a process in place. And it's probably very difficult for our State Department to figure one out. I believe our Secretary of State is there now trying to kind of figure all this out. And Egypt has their reasons for not wanting these refugees in their country as well. So it's a really tough situation where there's just not a way, there's just not a process. And so if there's a call to action in this video, it is to, one, please pray. Pray for all the innocents. Okay? I don't care what nationality they are. I don't care what religion they are. These are people. These are children. These are men and women. These are dads, moms, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, cousins, family. These are family and friends and loved ones. Pray for the innocents who aren't, they're not fighting. They're just stuck. They're mourning lost ones. They're afraid. They're hungry. They're thirsty. They don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. The sun is rising right now in Gaza, and I'm sure there's probably more bombs falling. And people in Israel don't know what's going to happen, right? Because they've been victim to attacks and that kind of thing too. So, and then let's put the pressure on our government, right, to uphold their bargain. These people are citizens, and Hesham is not the only U.S. citizen stuck in Gaza. Let me make that very clear. He's the only one I know, but he's not the only one. Again, different news outlets have reported the different people that are involved in this. So let's put the pressure on our government to do the right thing. And again, this is not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is not an independent, libertarian, nothing. This has nothing to do with parties. Because neither, from what I can tell, neither anybody really has a silver bullet fix on this. It's just there's not one. This is bigger than party. This is just one of these very unfortunate things that happens in the world. And I don't think there's anybody to blame at this point, at this moment. It's just a process. It's just a matter of getting the job done. And I don't think that anybody in any president, right? And I'm a history buff. I know the history of the presidency. I'm not sure there's any president who could have said, okay, well, we're just going to do this. It's more complicated than that, right? And the awesome responsibility and the insurmountable challenges that are faced in a situation like this. No human being is going to be able to just fix this thing and get this figured out. I think it's taken longer than it should have, but again, I don't think that either party or any one person would have had a quicker fix, really, probably, considering the circumstances. There's so much that's outside of our control, I think, that it just makes it a really, really complicated, difficult situation. But that doesn't mean that we as citizens, that we as people of this country, in a system where we elect the people that lead us, it's our responsibility to put pressure on them, right? It's our responsibility to hold our government to account. So let's make sure that they are working as hard as they can to bring our people home, to bring Hesham home, to bring all of the U.S. citizens home. Because that's what they signed up for. We as Americans asked them to become immigrants, to become citizens rather, and to become members of this American family. Now it's our government's job to uphold their side of the bargain and get them home and bring them home safe. So again, I know that this is like running on a 15-minute video, right? And nobody wants to sit here and hear me talk about this, but I felt I had a responsibility to put the message out on this platform that I've built for a dear, dear friend. And every night I'm glued to a live feed of Gaza, watching the explosions and watching the chaos, hoping and praying that my good friend, that my dear friend, that I and my family love so much, will be home soon. I want nothing more than to give him a hug and just, just know that he's safe and see his family together once again. Again, you probably, if you're in Waxahachie, I'm sure you've met them once or twice. You've had their pizza. It's good pizza too. And they have really good food, but just a loving family. A family I haven't seen that big a love from a family in a long time. I mean, they really, they love this community. They love their customers, and again, they're deep friends. So thank you so much for listening to me rant. If you, I mean, we've already made some headway, fortunately today, on kind of getting, Haifa was on NBC5 here in Dallas, NBC DFW, and, so she got some attention from that, right? And so we're starting to hear some things. For a long time, it was, I mean, anybody she would call, it was just, they were kind of going, well, we don't know. And again, I can understand that to an extent, right? But again, we have to keep our government moving. We have to keep our government accountable, right? That's our job as citizens, and to fulfill that bargain. So thank you so much again for watching. I'm not going to go on with this anymore. I'm not going to share additional information. I'm not here to tell stories or share anything more than what Haifa herself has shared, and what I shared from my perspective, right? And the other thing too is I would ask you to respect their privacy, right? This is a really tough time for them. They don't need to be inundated by people. They don't need to be inundated by pressure and all these kind of things. If you have questions, I mean, I guess you can direct those to me, right? Or suggestions or anything, just direct those to me, because I want them to be able to focus on writing this up. Because as much as I miss Hesham, that's nothing compared to what their family's going through. So thanks again, and we got a cold front coming tomorrow, right? To get back to the weather, we got a cold front coming in, and we'll be covering that tomorrow. But please pray. Join me in praying that Hesham and all of the U.S. citizens that are stuck in this conflict from Gaza or Israel or the West Bank or wherever, that they will be able to come home safely. Thank you again.